The Velthian ship materialized like a mirage in Earth's orbit, its crystalline surface refracting sunlight in impossible patterns. Inside the International Space Defense Station, Dr. Maya Chen's coffee cup slipped from her fingers, shattering against the metal floor. The alien vessel's sudden appearance had bypassed every early warning system humanity had established since reaching the stars. "Multiple unknown energy signatures detected," announced Lieutenant Sarah Parker, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "It's unlike anything in our database, Doctor." Maya rushed to her station, dark eyes scanning the readings that flooded her screen. After 15 years of searching for extraterrestrial life, humanity's first contact was happening during her shift. But something felt wrong. The energy patterns emanating from the vessel were erratic, aggressive. "Send the first contact protocol message," ordered Station Commander David Rodriguez, his weathered face illuminated by the emergency lights that had automatically activated. "All frequencies, all known language patterns." For 3 tense minutes, the crew waited. The crystalline ship hung motionless, its surface seeming to ripple like water despite its apparent solid state. Maya's instruments recorded everything, her scientific mind racing to understand the impossible physics she was witnessing. The response came not in words but in action. A beam of purple energy lanced out from the alien vessel, cutting through the station's shields like they were tissue paper. Warning klaxons blared as secondary systems failed. "Hull breach in Section 7. Lieutenant Parker shouted over the chaos. "We're losing atmosphere in the research wing." Commander Rodriguez's voice remained steady as he initiated emergency protocols. "All personnel, evacuate to secure sections. This is not a drill. Dr. Chen, grab what data you can and get to the escape pods." Maya's fingers flew over her console, downloading everything her sensors had recorded. The Velthians, as they would later be known, continued their assault, methodically dissecting the station with surgical precision. Each blast seemed carefully calculated to cause maximum damage, while preserving certain sections for what could only be later study. "Sir," Maya called out, "they're specifically targeting our defensive capabilities. This isn't random. They know exactly where to hit us." The realization struck her like a physical blow. This wasn't first contact gone wrong. This was a pre-planned attack. The Velthians had studied them, learned their weaknesses, and chosen this moment to strike. As Maya ran through the corridors toward the escape pods, clutching her data drive, the station shuddered again. Through the reinforced windows, she caught glimpses of other Velthian ships appearing, their crystalline forms distorting space itself as they emerged from whatever dimensional pocket they'd been hiding in. Escape pods 1 through 4 ready for launch. The station's AI announced, its artificial calm a stark contrast to the chaos around them. Maya strapped herself into Pod 3 alongside 3 other crew members, her mind already racing with calculations and theories about the technology she'd witnessed. The last thing she saw before her pod launched was the crystalline flagship rotating to reveal what appeared to be some kind of massive energy collector, its surface beginning to glow with an intense blue light. The station's remains would later be found scattered across 3 different orbital paths, some pieces apparently aged hundreds of years, others seemingly transformed into unknown materials. But the Velthians had made one crucial mistake. In their precise, calculated attack, they'd allowed just enough escape pods to launch to carry their message back to Earth. And among those survivors was Dr. Maya Chen, clutching a data drive containing the only detailed sensor readings of Velthian technology in action. The information she carried would become the foundation of humanity's resistance. The Velthians had revealed their existence in a show of overwhelming force, but they hadn't counted on humanity's greatest strength, the ability to adapt, to learn, and to turn even the most devastating defeat into an opportunity. As her escape pod streaked through Earth's atmosphere, Maya already began analyzing the data, looking for patterns in the seemingly impossible technology she'd witnessed. The Velthians might have won this first battle, but they'd inadvertently given humanity exactly what it needed: a glimpse behind the curtain of their superior technology. The pod's landing beacon activated automatically as they entered the lower atmosphere, and Maya could already hear the chatter of rescue teams coordinating their recovery. She clutched the data drive tighter, knowing that humanity's survival might well depend on the information it contained. The real war hadn't even begun, but the first seeds of resistance were already taking root. 3 days later, in a secure underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Maya stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her presentation displaying the analyzed data from the attack. The Valthian ships don't just use advanced technology, she explained, highlighting a particular energy pattern. They manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. Their weapons don't just destroy. They rewrite the physical properties of their targets at a quantum level. Admiral James Harrison, a veteran of the Mars colonies conflict, leaned forward. "Are you saying we can't fight them, Doctor?" Maya allowed herself a small smile. "No, Admiral. I'm saying we need to stop thinking like engineers and start thinking like physicists. The Valthians aren't invincible. They're just operating on a level of science we haven't achieved yet. But their attack gave us something invaluable: data." She brought up a new series of calculations. Every time they fired their weapons, they had to stabilize their own ships against the quantum backwash. There were microsecond vulnerabilities in their defenses. If we can understand how they're manipulating reality itself, we can find ways to disrupt it. The council chamber erupted in discussion, but Maya's mind was already racing ahead to the next step. The Valthians had shown humanity a new level of scientific possibility, and in doing so, they'd given Earth's brightest minds a direction to focus their efforts. As she left the council chamber, Maya received a message from her old colleague, Dr. Marcus Wong, now heading a secret research facility on Mars. He'd analyzed her data and found something interesting in the quantum fluctuation patterns. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The first shots had been fired, but the real battle would be fought not just with weapons, but with knowledge and understanding. Humanity had always excelled at turning its adversaries' strengths into weaknesses. Now they would have to do it on a cosmic scale. Maya boarded the shuttle to the Mars facility, her mind already working on new theories. The Valthians had meant to crush humanity's spirit with their display of overwhelming force. Instead, they'd awakened something far more dangerous: human ingenuity driven by the need to survive. The war for Earth's survival had begun, but it would be fought with equations and experiments as much as with ships and weapons, and Dr. Maya Chen intended to be on the front lines of both battles. The red dust of Mars swirled against the reinforced windows of Research Facility Omega, buried deep beneath the planet's surface. Dr. Maya Chen stood before a holographic display showing the latest test results, her face illuminated by the soft blue glow of quantum probability matrices. 6 months had passed since the Valthian attack on the space station. 6 months of relentless work, trial and error, and gradual progress. The Valthians had struck 3 more times since then: a mining colony on Europa, a research station in the Kuiper Belt, and most recently, a civilian settlement on Venus. Each attack followed the same pattern: precise, devastating, and seemingly unstoppable. But Maya and her team had been watching, learning, and most importantly, understanding. "Run the simulation again," she instructed the AI system. "Focus on the quantum fluctuation patterns during weapon discharge." Dr. Marcus Wong, her longtime colleague and the facility's director, joined her at the display. His once neat appearance had grown disheveled from countless hours in the lab, but his eyes remained sharp and focused. "Look at this," he said, highlighting a particular section of data. "Every time they fire their reality-warping weapons, there's a momentary surge in tachyon particles around their ships. It's like they're burning excess energy to maintain stability." Maya nodded, her mind racing with implications. They're not just bending space-time, they're having to actively prevent it from snapping back. That takes enormous energy and creates a vulnerability. Marcus finished. A split-second window where their defenses are focused entirely on maintaining their weapon systems. The discovery energized the entire research team. For the first time, they had identified a concrete weakness in Vulthian technology. But understanding the weakness and exploiting it were two very different challenges. In the facility's quantum engineering lab, Dr. Sarah Martinez had been working on prototype defense systems based on Maya's initial data. The lab was filled with experimental equipment, much of it invented specifically for this project. The problem, Sarah explained during their daily briefing, is that we can't just build better shields or stronger weapons. We need to fundamentally change how we approach defense technology. She brought up a demonstration showing how conventional shields interacted with Vulthian weapons. Their attacks don't just damage our defenses, they rewrite the quantum structure of the materials themselves. But what if we could create a shield that exists in a state of quantum uncertainty? The concept was revolutionary. Instead of trying to block Vulthian weapons directly, they would create defensive systems that could shift between quantum states, making them harder to target with reality-altering attacks. Progress came in fits and starts. Some days brought breakthrough insights, others ended in spectacular failures that left entire test chambers transformed into impossible geometric shapes. But with each attempt, they learned more about the fundamental forces the Vulthians manipulated so easily. 3 months into the project, they had their first major success. In a controlled test environment, a prototype quantum shield successfully deflected a simulated Vulthian attack. The energy cost was enormous, and the shield only lasted for microseconds, but it proved their theories were sound. Maya celebrated with her team that night, allowing themselves a brief moment of hope. But she knew they needed more than just defensive capabilities. To truly stand a chance against the Vulthians, humanity would need to find a way to fight back. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a theoretical physicist who'd been studying the residual effects of Vulthian attacks, made a crucial observation. Their weapons don't just affect normal space, she explained, excitement making her words tumble out faster. They create a cascade effect through multiple quantum dimensions, but that same effect could be turned against them. The team worked tirelessly to develop what they called the quantum resonance cannon, a weapon designed not to attack Vulthian ships directly, but to disrupt the carefully maintained quantum fields they relied on for their reality-altering technology. The first full-scale test was conducted in a remote area of the Martian desert. The target was a piece of salvaged Vulthian technology recovered from one of their attacks. When the resonance cannon fired, the alien material didn't just break apart. It underwent a spectacular quantum collapse, its fundamental structure unable to maintain coherence. News of the breakthrough reached Earth's Defense Command immediately. Plans were already being drawn up for full-scale production of both the quantum shields and resonance weapons. But Maya and her team knew the Vulthians wouldn't give them much time to prepare. Their fears were confirmed when long-range sensors detected a massive Vulthian fleet assembling at the edge of the solar system. This wasn't going to be another surgical strike. It was an invasion force. In the facility's main conference room, Maya addressed the assembled research team. Everything we've learned, everything we've developed, it all comes down to the next few weeks. The Vulthians think they know everything about us, that they've measured and calculated every aspect of human capability. She smiled grimly. But they've never faced humans who understand their technology, who can fight them on their own terms. They thought they were teaching us our limitations. Instead, they taught us how to transcend them. As the meeting concluded, Maya received an urgent message from Admiral Harrison. The Vulthian fleet had begun moving into the solar system. They would reach Mars in less than 2 weeks. The race was on to mass-produce their new defensive systems and train crews in their operation. But as Maya watched teams of engineers and technicians working around the clock, she felt a surge of pride. Humanity had done what it did best, taken an overwhelming challenge, and turned it into an opportunity for advancement. The Vulthians were coming, but this time, Earth would be ready. This time, humanity would show them that superior technology wasn't enough to guarantee victory. Sometimes the greatest strength lay not in the power of your weapons, but in the ability to understand and adapt to any challenge. As she returned to her lab to continue refining their designs, Maya thought about how far they'd come since that first devastating attack. The Valthians had meant to break humanity's spirit. Instead, they'd forced humanity to evolve, to push beyond its perceived limitations. The real test was still to come, but Maya knew one thing for certain. The Valthians were about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon had always been its boundless capacity for growth and adaptation. The bridge of the UEAS Defiant hummed with tension as Admiral Sarah Chen, Maya's younger sister, studied the tactical display. The Valthian invasion fleet had just passed Jupiter's orbit, their crystalline ships moving in perfect formation. Humanity's first line of defense waited in the asteroid belt, a hastily assembled force of ships retrofitted with the new quantum technology. "All ships report ready, Admiral," announced Captain Rodriguez, son of the commander who died in the first Valthian attack. "Quantum shields are stable. Resonance cannons are charged." Sarah nodded, her expression stern. The weight of command pressed heavily on her shoulders. Every ship in the fleet carried a piece of technology that had only existed in theory months ago. Their entire strategy hinged on theories and simulations created by her sister's team. "Send the signal," she ordered. "Operation Thunderstrike begins now." Throughout the fleet, crews moved to battle stations. The new quantum shields shimmed into existence around each vessel, creating a strange visual effect that made the ships appear to exist in multiple places simultaneously. The Valthians noticed the defensive formation and responded predictably, with overwhelming force. Their lead ships opened fire, reality warping beams, lancing out toward the human fleet. But this time, something different happened. Instead of cutting through shields and hull like paper, the Valthian weapons encountered resistance. The quantum shields flickered and strained but held, dispersing the energy across multiple quantum states just as designed. On the Defiance bridge, a cheer went up from the crew. "Shields holding at 82%, reported the defensive officer. "The quantum dispersion is working." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Signal all ships. Execute attack pattern Delta. Let's show them what these resonance cannons can do." The human fleet split into pre-planned attack groups, maneuvering with precision that would have been impossible just months ago. The quantum shields didn't just defend against Valthian weapons. They provided limited protection against their reality manipulation technology, allowing human ships to operate in spaces the enemy had previously controlled completely. The first resonance cannon volley caught the Valthians completely by surprise. Beams of concentrated quantum energy struck their crystalline ships, causing cascading failures in their carefully maintained reality fields. 3 enemy vessels simply ceased to exist, their matter scattered across multiple quantum dimensions. But the Valthians hadn't conquered dozens of star systems by being predictable. Their fleet quickly adapted, changing formation and implementing new attack patterns. The space between the fleets became a chaos of reality-warping energies and quantum disruptions. "They're targeting our power distribution nodes," Sarah realized, watching the pattern of enemy attacks. "They've already analyzed our shield technology and found a weakness." She opened a channel to all ships. "Rotate shield frequencies according to Protocol Omega. Don't let them lock onto any single configuration." The battle raged for hours, each side adapting and counter-adapting to new tactics. Human ingenuity and determination matched against Valthian technical superiority and tactical experience. Ships were lost on both sides, their destruction marked by spectacular quantum phenomena that lit up space like newborn stars. In the midst of the chaos, Sarah noticed something odd about the Valthian fleet movements. "They're not pressing their advantage in Sector 7, she mused, "almost like they're—" Her eyes widened. "All ships, emergency maneuver. They're trying to hurt us." The warning came just as a massive Valthian dreadnought emerged from quantum space behind the human fleet. It was unlike anything they'd seen before. a ship that seemed to exist in 4 dimensions at once, its crystalline surface reflecting images of possible futures and past moments. New contact designated Valthian Command Ship Alpha. The tactical officer reported, voice steady despite the unprecedented threat. Energy readings are off the scale. Sarah's mind raced. This had to be their flagship, held in reserve until now. But its appearance confirmed something her sister had theorized. The Valthians had limitations on their reality manipulation technology. They couldn't maintain their highest levels of technology constantly, or it would have used this ship from the start. All ships, concentrate fire on that dreadnought, she ordered. Full power to resonance cannons. Hit them before they can fully stabilize their quantum field. The human fleet responded with remarkable coordination, dozens of resonance cannons firing simultaneously. The dreadnought's defenses were incredible. It seemed to shift between realities, letting some attacks pass through harmlessly, while others were reflected back at the human ships. But it couldn't dodge everything. A coordinated strike from 3 heavy cruisers finally breached its quantum field. The damage wasn't severe, but the impact sent catastrophic ripples through the dreadnought's reality manipulation systems. For a brief moment, the massive ship's crystalline surface turned opaque, its quantum field fluctuating wildly. Sarah recognized the pattern from her sister's research. The same energy signature they'd discovered in their early experiments. All ships, switch to frequency 793, she commanded. Fire resonance cannons directly at their field fluctuations. The human fleet responded instantly, years of training combining with their natural adaptability. Resonance beams struck the dreadnought precisely where its quantum field was weakest, magnifying the instability. What happened next would be studied by physicists for decades. The dreadnought didn't explode. It underwent a cascading quantum collapse, its matter and energy scattering across multiple dimensions. The effect rippled through space, temporarily disrupting the quantum fields of nearby Valthian ships. Sarah seized the opportunity. All units, engage at will. Don't let them recover their quantum stability. The human fleet pressed their advantage, resonance cannons firing continuously. Without their flagship's superior reality manipulation technology to support them, the remaining Valthian ships were forced to fight on more equal terms. The battle that followed was still desperate and costly, but for the first time, humanity wasn't just surviving. They were winning. Ship by ship, the mighty Valthian fleet was pushed back, their technological advantage nullified by human determination and ingenuity. Hours later, as the last Valthian ships retreated toward the outer system, Sarah finally allowed herself to relax slightly. They'd won their first major victory, but she knew this was just the beginning. The Valthians would be back, with new tactics and technologies. But humanity would be ready. They'd proven they could not only understand Valthian technology, but improve upon it in ways their enemies hadn't imagined. The quantum shields and resonance cannons were just the start. As she composed her report to Earth Command, Sarah included a personal note to her sister. Your theories were right, Maya. They're not invincible. And now, they know it too. The Battle of the Asteroid Belt, as it would come to be known, marked a turning point in the war. Humanity had shown that determination, ingenuity, and the ability to adapt could overcome even the most advanced technology. The Valthians had come expecting to find primitive beings ready for conquest. Instead, they'd awakened a force they never anticipated, human potential unleashed. Jupiter's massive form dominated the view screen of Research Station Europa 7, its swirling storms casting an eerie light across the ice-covered moon below. Dr. Maya Chen stood beside her sister, Admiral Sarah Chen, as they watched the latest sensor data from the outer system. The Valthians were returning, just as they'd predicted, but this time with something new. The quantum signatures are different, Maya explained, highlighting patterns in the data stream. They've modified their field generators, adapted to our resonance weapons. Whatever we hit them with last time, they've made sure it won't work again. Sarah nodded grimly. They're learning, just like we are. She turned to the assembled fleet commanders, their holograms flickering in the station's secure briefing room. How long until the new defense grid is operational? Colonel James Wright, commander of the Jupiter Defense Force, stepped forward. The quantum beacon network is at 60% capacity. We need another week to fully calibrate the system. We don't have a week, Maya interrupted, pulling up new data. Based on their current trajectory and speed, the Valthian fleet will reach Jupiter's orbit in less than 72 hours. And this time, they're not just sending a battle group. The holographic display shifted to show the approaching enemy fleet. Hundreds of crystalline ships, ranging from small escorts to massive dreadnoughts, moved in perfect formation. At their center was something that defied description, a construct that seemed to fold space itself around it. "What are we looking at?" Sarah asked, studying the impossible object. "We're calling it a reality forge," Maya replied. "It's not just a ship, it's a mobile facility for manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe. They're not just coming to fight us. They're coming to rewrite the laws of physics in this entire sector of space." The implications were staggering. If the Valthians succeeded, they could make it impossible for human technology to function in the Jupiter system. It would be like changing the rules of the game while it was being played. Sarah turned to her fleet commanders. "We need options. Colonel Wright, what's the minimum time you need to get the defense grid operational?" "If we divert all power from the civilian sectors and run the calibration sequences in parallel," he calculated quickly, 48 hours. Maybe less if we push the systems to their limits. But Admiral, running untested quantum technology at that level of strain could cause a cascade failure that would tear Europa apart at the quantum level. Maya finished. "The risk calculations are clear. We'd be gambling with the lives of everyone on this moon." Sarah studied the tactical display, her expression hardening. "And if we don't take that risk, we'll lose everything anyway. Begin the emergency protocols. Evacuate all non-essential personnel from Europa. I want that defense grid operational before the Valthians arrive." The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. Civilian ships streamed away from Europa as engineering teams worked around the clock to complete the quantum beacon network. Maya and her research team struggled to predict how the Valthians might have modified their technology, developing countermeasures for scenarios they could only imagine. The first signs of trouble came 6 hours before the defense grid was scheduled to activate. Quantum fluctuations began rippling through space around Europa, causing instruments to malfunction and computers to crash. "They're starting early," Maya realized, analyzing the patterns. "The reality forge is already trying to alter local space-time." Sarah immediately ordered the fleet into defensive positions. Human ships moved to form a protective screen around Europa, their quantum shields straining against the increasing distortions in reality itself. The main Valthian fleet emerged from quantum space right on schedule, their ships taking up attack positions with mechanical precision. But instead of opening fire, they simply held their positions, letting the reality forge continue its work. "Status of the defense grid," Sarah demanded. 78% calibrated, Colonel Wright reported. "But these reality fluctuations are interfering with the final adjustments. We need more time." Maya studied the data scrolling across her screens, her mind racing. "They're not just attacking us," she said suddenly. "They're trying to make it impossible for our technology to exist here. The laws of physics themselves are becoming hostile to our presence." As if to emphasize her point, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The quantum fluctuations were intensifying, causing structural damage to both ships and stations. Reality itself seemed to be coming apart at the seams. Sarah made her decision. "All ships, attack pattern Omega. Target the reality forge. We end this now, before they can complete whatever they're trying to do." The human fleet surged forward, resonance cannons firing. But the Valthians were ready. Their ships moved to intercept, engaging the human fleet while the reality forge continued its work unimpeded. The battle that followed was unlike anything in human history. Ships didn't just explode. They phased out of existence or merged with alternate realities. Weapons fire bent in impossible ways as the laws of physics became increasingly unstable. Maya watched in horror as the quantum readings approached critical levels. "Sarah, we're running out of time. If they complete this reality modification, nothing we have will work here. We'll lose the entire Jupiter system." Sarah looked at her sister, then at the tactical display, showing her fleet being slowly but surely pushed back. "What about overloading the defense grid? Use all that quantum energy to disrupt whatever they're doing. The backlash would destroy Europa," Maya said quietly. "Maybe Jupiter's other moons as well. But it might work. It might be our only chance to stop them." Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of command more heavily than ever before. "Begin the overload sequence, and get me a channel to all ships and stations." As Maya and her team worked to turn Europa's defense grid into a quantum bomb, Sarah addressed her forces. "This is Admiral Chen. In approximately 15 minutes, we will be initiating a controlled overload of Europa's quantum defense network. All ships are ordered to retreat beyond the Jupiter gravity well immediately." She paused, looking at the brave men and women who had fought so hard to protect humanity. "I know what I'm asking. I know the cost. But if we fail here, Earth itself will be next. It has been my highest honor to serve with you all." The evacuation began immediately, ships breaking off from the battle and jumping to safe distances. The Valthians, sensing something was wrong, increased their attacks, but the remaining human forces held the line with desperate courage. On Europa 7, Maya finished the final calculations. "Overload sequence is ready. We need to go, Sarah. Now." But Sarah shook her head. "Someone needs to stay to make sure it works. Someone needs to adapt the sequence if the Valthians try to counter it." She looked at her sister. "Get to the last shuttle. Earth will need your mind for whatever comes next." Maya wanted to argue, but she knew her sister was right. They embraced quickly. Then Maya ran for the evacuation zone, carrying with her the data that might help humanity survive whatever came next. The last thing she saw as her shuttle cleared Jupiter's gravity, well, was a flash of light brighter than the sun itself. The quantum overload had worked, perhaps too well. Where Europa had been, there was now only a scatter of debris and a massive distortion in space-time itself. But the reality forge was gone, along with most of the Valthian fleet. The laws of physics in the Jupiter system remained firmly in humanity's favor. The price had been astronomical. Thousands of lives, a moon shattered, and a sister lost. But humanity had held the line. As the surviving ships regrouped, Maya began analyzing the sensor data from the battle. The Valthians would return, of that she was certain. But they would find humanity stronger, more determined, and ready to defend their solar system at any cost. The Battle of Europa, as it came to be known, marked the moment when humanity proved it would not go quietly into the night. The Valthians had brought their ultimate weapon, tried to rewrite reality itself to ensure their victory. Instead, they had learned that human determination could overcome even the laws of physics themselves. But victory had come at a terrible price, and as Maya looked out at the changed face of Jupiter's moon system, she wondered what other sacrifices lay ahead in humanity's fight for survival. 3 months after the Battle of Europa, Dr. Maya Chen stood in Earth's Orbital Defense Command Center, watching the quantum sensor network light up with new contacts. The Valthians had returned, but this time was different. Instead of an invasion fleet, a single ship approached, enormous, crystalline, but broadcasting on human frequencies. "They're requesting to open communications," announced Captain Rodriguez, his hands hovering over the defense controls. "On all channels, in perfect English." Maya studied the ship's quantum signature. Its reality manipulation field was active but configured differently than anything they'd seen before. "They're maintaining quantum stability without any offensive configurations," she noted. I think they genuinely want to talk." The decision went to the United Earth Defense Council, but everyone knew what had brought them to this moment. The Battle of Europa hadn't just cost the Valthian ships and resources. It had shattered their belief in their own technological superiority. For the first time in their history of conquest, they'd encountered a species that could not only understand their technology, but adapt and improve upon it. When the communication channel opened, the being that appeared on the main screen was unlike anything humanity had expected. The Valthian ambassador's form shifted between states of matter, a visual representation of their mastery over reality itself. "We have come to negotiate," it said, its voice resonating on multiple quantum frequencies. "Your species has proven unprecedented." Maya stepped forward, chosen to represent humanity's scientific understanding of Valthian technology. "You mean we surprised you? We didn't behave like a primitive species should." The ambassador's form rippled in what might have been amusement. "In all our expansions across 12 galaxies, we have never encountered a species that could reverse engineer our quantum manipulation technology so quickly." The Battle of Europa proved that continued conflict would be inefficient. Inefficient. Maya felt anger rise in her chest. "Is that what you call the deaths of thousands? The destruction of an entire moon? The loss of my sister?" The Valthian's form stabilized, becoming more solid. "We have caused you great harm. This we acknowledge. But consider, in our arrogance, we gifted you with knowledge that would have taken your species centuries to discover naturally. And in mere months, you not only understood it but found ways to use it that we had never considered." Maya remembered the quantum shields, the resonance cannons, innovations born of desperate necessity. "We did what we had to do to survive. And in doing so, you proved yourselves worthy of something more than conquest." The ambassador's form shifted again. "We propose an exchange, knowledge for knowledge, partnership instead of dominion." The negotiations that followed lasted weeks. The Valthians, it turned out, had become trapped by their own technological superiority. They had stopped innovating, stopped adapting, convinced that they had reached the pinnacle of possible achievement. Humanity's desperate innovations had shown them how wrong they were. In the end, the peace treaty wasn't just about ending hostilities. It was about sharing knowledge. The Valthians would teach humanity the full scope of their quantum manipulation technology, and in return, humanity would share their unique perspectives, their ability to find new applications and possibilities that centuries of complacency had blinded the Valthians to. 6 months later, Maya stood on the observation deck of the new Quantum Research Institute, a joint human-Valthian facility built in Earth orbit. Below her, the planet glowed blue and peaceful, while above, the stars beckoned with new possibility. A Valthian scientist, she had come to know them as Cure, approached, its form settling into a roughly humanoid shape out of courtesy. "We have completed the initial analysis of your proposed modifications to the quantum field generators," it said. "The results are unexpected." Maya smiled. "Good unexpected or bad unexpected?" "We had not considered that quantum fields could be manipulated in this way," Kira admitted. "It is efficient, elegant, and completely unlike our traditional approaches. This is why we needed this partnership." Maya turned back to the window, thinking of Sarah and all the others who had sacrificed everything to bring them to this moment. "We learned because we had to," she said softly. "Innovation born from necessity. And now we learn from choice," Kira responded. "Already, our combined research has produced advances that neither of our species could have achieved alone." It was true. The quantum technology that had been developed for war was being repurposed for peaceful applications. New forms of energy generation, revolutionary medical treatments, even the beginnings of controlled reality manipulation for terraforming hostile environments. The stars above seemed brighter somehow, more accessible. Human ships, enhanced with Valthian technology freely shared, were already pushing deeper into space. But they went not as conquerors or victims, but as explorers and innovators. "There are still those among my people who believe we should have continued the war," Kira said suddenly, "who see sharing our knowledge as a form of weakness." Maya nodded. "We have those too. But I think both our species have learned something important. True strength isn't about having the most advanced technology or the most powerful weapons. It's about being able to grow, to adapt, to see new possibilities. She touched the window, thinking of the future that lay ahead. Your people taught us that the laws of physics themselves could be rewritten. We showed you that the greatest discoveries come when you're willing to question everything you think you know. A alert chimed softly, indicating that the latest quantum field experiment was ready to begin. Maya and Kira turned from the window, ready to push the boundaries of possibility once again. The war had ended, but humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. They had proven themselves not just survivors, but innovators worthy of standing alongside one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. The cost had been terrible, but the dawn of this new era held promise beyond imagination. As Maya headed to the laboratory, she smiled, knowing that somewhere, Sarah would be proud. Humanity hadn't just survived. They had shown the galaxy that their greatest strength lay not in weapons or technology, but in their endless capacity to adapt, to imagine, and to turn even their greatest challenges into opportunities for growth. The stars above called to them now not as distant lights, but as destinations waiting to be reached. And humanity would go to them not as conquerors or victims, but as pioneers of a new age of discovery and cooperation, ready to rewrite the rules of reality itself.